Hey folks, this is the Constant Show where we talk about movies, and I am Constant, who all I wish as he was. And this week, we are going to discuss Alpha Dog. Before we get into the movie though, a very quick disclaimer. This movie is based on true events. I'm not going to be covering any of the true stuff. I'm just here for the movie aspect of it, so I'm going to be judging entirely off of what the movie gives me. Alpha Dog is an experience. It's 2 hours long. I will say to its credit, it's shot really well. There's nothing flashy, but everything's so well executed it makes it fly pretty fast. Tonally, it bounces between idealistic, delusional whimsy and ugly, gritty realism as you follow this spiraling trajectory that can only end in tragedy. Well, what is Alpha Dog really about? And the answer to that is masculinity. Here's some quick word counts for you. The word man is said 90 times in this movie. Dude is said 42 times, bitch is said 50 times, and suck is said 24 times. A lot of this movie is just people vying for social prominence. A dozen or so times where one straight dude says to another straight dude that he should blow him, or calls him some variant of gay, or suggests that he might be gay. And I think that's part of the core messaging. The fractures that exist in male socialization patterns and the damage that that does to individuals, the hurdles that they face communicating. So we meet most of our core cast very early on, and the first person that we should probably talk about is Johnny Truelove. Now, Truelove is a wannabe gangster. He's a middleman drug dealer who has aspirations of Scarface. But he's not really an alpha in the sense that his bark is worse than his bite. Next up, we have Frankie, who is played by Justin Timberlake, and he's the chill, kind of go with the flow party guy. He's not here for a long time, just a good time. And then after that, it's bye. Finally, we have Elvis, and he's kind of the butters of the group. So he does most of the labor and then also gets picked on all the time. And one of our earliest introductions to Elvis, he's going through this to-do list of all the stuff that he's done for Johnny. And at the very end of the list is pick up dog crap. And when he tells Johnny excitedly that he's completed this list, he's helped him out, Johnny gets bossy, I guess. He tells him to go ahead and do the list over again, and if he has to, then he can put out dog crap and then pick it up himself. This is kind of symbolic in the way that the mean-spiritedness of typical male communication is unproductive. He's already in an advantageous social position where he can just order Elvis around due to the debt that Elvis owes him. But the point isn't actually to get things done, it's just to assert that power. So it's not about having the dog crap picked up, it's about the act of forcing Elvis to be the one to go pick up the dog crap. There's also this early scene that happens with Elvis where Johnny Truelove and JT, also known as Frankie, are sitting on the couch. And they're just kind of chilling. Frankie says to Elvis, you love Johnny. Like, you really love him. You would probably blow him if he asked you to. To which he replies, no, man, I wouldn't do that. Truelove is like, do it. This whole scene lasts, way longer than it has any business lasting. But I think the uncomfortability there, again, kind of the point. When all of the man's masculine relationships are treated as this power struggle where there is a winner and a loser, right? Male compassion is something to be ashamed of. So in that sense, they use gay as a proxy for dudes who care for dudes. But it creates this situation where optimal, response to any situation for any dude is not something that's helpful for other dudes. Accordingly, this limits the ability of any dude to speak out about problems that he may have. It also serves the other negative purpose of forcing men to act in self-serving ways. The last major character that we should probably touch on before we go any further is Jake. And Jake is the Aryan Bruce Lee. He's got his Nazi tats going on, and he's got his kung fu. One might think that these things were antagonistic towards each other, but Jake does not seem to mind. Jake is also all hopped up on drugs, and that brings us to our first major conflict in the movie. CEO's Truelove money. And at first, Jake goes to his parents' house to talk to his dad about maybe getting the money. The thing about the conversation with the dad, though, they sit around the dinner table, and his dad asks him these surface level questions, how you been? Where we see Jake already has these deep seated problems. And his dad just kind of throws money at the situation. But this is recurring trend with him where the father figure is at best just a provider, right? He is not there to offer emotional support or guidance or even practical life advice. So Jake gets into a disagreement in his parents' house. He does not get the money, so he goes over to True Love's party, right? And he's like, True Love, I will get you the money. It will happen. And True Love here, he feels like he should be the alpha. He's the Scarface to the situation. And you don't got his money. It's a terrible impression. He feels like he should be the top dog here. And he is barking his chihuahua head off. And then he tries to attack Jake. Again, symbolism, right? So True Love has this idea that a man is a warrior. He is a fighter. If things go wrong, his fists will solve this problem. And the big problem here is he's not built like that. So whenever he tries to attack, Jake nearly ends up drowning him in a pool. It's only True Love's social connections that actually get him out of that situation when his friends come over to break up the whole drowning him thing. Jake's not done there. Now he's still kind of mad about that whole being attacked at a party thing. He decides that he's going to break into True Love's house and then crap on True Love's floor as True Love watches him from the other room. We have this base animalistic display of marking his territory. So what do you do there? Well, if you're True Love, you decide that you're going to pack up all your things and then you're going to literally flee. It's poop, fight, or flight, and he is just flight all the way. This gives us another glimpse into the motivations behind a lot of the way that True Love acts. When he's at a party with his friends, right, now he's True Love's the gangster. You better watch out because he'll get put through his own plastic coffee table. But then whenever he's by himself, we would expect if he's really the alpha, if he's the big bad wolf here, that he would go out there and he would do something. Instead, he just watches and then he flees. This is sort of emblematic of how he is a false prophet of masculinity, I guess. He's at the top of the social hierarchy, but if we're thinking about things practically, he should not be the dude in charge. He's not that guy. He's just simply not. He's not even a canine on its own. So in the process of him fleeing the scene of his own crimes, the poop crime scene of his own house, he stumbles across Jake's younger brother, Zach. He's a quiet kind of introvert, mama's boy who's lived in his bubble. He's done his homework, and he's a good kid. But he's got a little bit of wild in him, and he hasn't been able to sow his oats because the path in front of him has been blazed by Jake. If you have a Jake, your next kid, you're staying away from a lot of consequences. Big guidance point in his life is his mom, right? This big motherly energy. But I think for Zach, he needs a dude to show him the ways of doing it. The lack of that drives a lot of his motivation for the film. So whenever they kidnap him, he's kind of just on board with it. He's like, yeah, we can just hang out, we can be friends. You're like a big brother that I already have. If you guys get GameCube, it's a different time. We see Zach and Frankie bonding a lot. There's like a whole progression with their friendship. It starts at the beginning where Frankie is one of the only reasonable people, and it's just him and Zach on the outside. And Frankie's like, look, if you want to leave, if you want to go bye, I got some bye-yay's. You can just go. I won't say anything. It'd be cool. I'll be like, oh, I lost it. But yeah, Zach just likes this, we're just brothers hanging out. And they do have a great time. There's a scene where Zach and Frankie are in the bathroom, and Zach is like, I know Taekwondo. And Frankie's like, okay, this nerd over here. And then Zach puts the hands on him. And you would think, this is going to spiral over, right? But it doesn't. And it's this very beautiful male moment where it's like, this is how two dudes bond, you do a little bit of sparring, and it's like, yeah, that was awesome. I threw punches, you threw punches, that was cool. We're like an action movie. One of the parts, I think, of masculinity that dudes just don't understand. I think there's degrees of violence, I guess, and there's a safe level where it's like you're below like rough housing. This isn't at an actual fight. It's like a playful element. So it was nice to have that like positive moment alongside a lot of the, I guess, failings of the male gender archetype. True Love has abandoned this whole kidnapping thing. He's just fucked off to do whatever, right? He's not even a part of the situation anymore. I don't even know what he's doing, quite frankly. I assume drugs, because, like, he's not there. He just leaves Frankie to deal with this whole situation, and Frankie has no idea how to deal with it. So, he takes him to his house where his dad is. And there are 3 father figures in this film, and I think the most that you can say about any of them is that they're a provider, which is what we see in 2/3. And the third one is just like, you got it handled and also don't we get it. So at a certain point, True Love starts ruminating on where he's at in his life because he has the time to do that. And he talks to this lawyer, and the lawyer's like, kidnapping, pretty serious charges. Wouldn't recommend it. True Love goes, oh shit, he's right. Like, kidnapping is a crime. Been just doing all these other crimes. True Love and Frankie are sitting down, and this is when True Love's Wheels, his little hamster dog, is and he's like, hey, what if we maybe just killed this guy? And Frankie's like, no. True Love pretends like he's joking afterwards. Frankie pretends like he thinks that he's joking afterwards. True Love walks away from the situation going, I've deceived him. He has no ideas about my plan. And Frankie leaves the room going, that guy is crazy as shit. And I'm not doing that. That's this consistent thing that we see with Frankie throughout the entire movie is he's not on board with any of this. He didn't want to do the kidnapping. He doesn't want to do anything murder related. He mostly just wanted to let this kid go. In another sense, though, this conversation shows us this disconnect that men have due to the way that they're socialized. True Love doesn't have the social intelligence to lie effectively, right? And Frankie doesn't have the words to really address this situation. So instead of dealing with it, they both decide that it was a joke and then walk away. As it's rolling forward, there's this part where Zach is just sitting there and he's watching TV and he's drank. He's already had a threesome at this point. He's really just living his best life. Frankie gets the call in that he's going to get killed, right? And so Frankie goes in and he sits down next to him on the couch and he tries to come up with these reasons for him to leave. Like maybe go get cigarettes, go see a movie. You remember that bus we talked about earlier? It'd be cool if you just hopped on that, like, right now. And Zach's like, no, I'm okay. I'm chilling, having a good time. This is another one of those points where we see this total communication breakdown. This is a very serious situation, and if Frankie wants to salvage the situation, he needs to act right now. He can't because he doesn't have the language for that. He doesn't have any meaningful conversations with his dad. We know from who True Love is that that's not going to be a wealth of interpersonal connectedness. There's no one setting the standard for how Frankie should deal with a serious situation, and because of it, he just doesn't. He goes outside and he waits for Elvis to show up, and when Elvis shows up, Frankie tries to tell him, hey, we're not doing this. Then something kind of strange happens, I guess. Strange in the sense that it ties into everything else that happens. Elvis tells him that he's basically the man now, and I believe his quote verbatim is, who's sucking whose dick now? Again, right, like the male hierarchy is defined by who's going to be the coolest to like their fellow dude. So now that Elvis has moved up the hierarchy, he's going to be even worse to Zach than they were to him in the first place. And in a way, this kind of feels like a right to Elvis. He was at the bottom before, but now he can move up. It's his shot to be one of the cool dudes. And then we get to the ending sequence. So up until this point, the movies felt kind of like a combination of like American Pie and, I don't know, Better Call Saul or something. Like there's these dark things that are kind of happening in the background. Once we get to the final act, everything comes to fruition. It starts with Johnny and his dad talking, and at this point, True Love has opened up to his father about the whole kidnapping thing. Mainly because his father went on his own investigation and found out that this was the case. But at that point, he's like, hey, True Love, you need to go get that kid, bring him back here. We're going to get you a lawyer. You're going to face charges for the kidnapping. You'll get it light. It'll be okay. But we need to just clear up this whole situation. There's only one problem, and that's that it's already too late by this point. There's nothing they can do to derail the train that is already in motion because Frankie and Elvis and Zach are already in the car on their way out to the desert. And one of the, like, this whole sequence is like heartbreaking, but like the whole time they're driving, Zach is just having these epiphanies. So he's like, man, I love life, and I've learned so much, and I'm so happy, and I just have so much that I'm being changed when I come back. And I really love my mom. She's been great to me, despite like everybody else being not so great. Epiphanies are juxtaposed by the fate that is waiting for him. And they go into the desert, and then Zach's mouth is duct taped across, and he's hit with a shovel. And again, symbolism, right? Like it's the silence that kills dudes. Look back to the scene where Zach first leaves the house before he gets kidnapped. Upset at his dad. He's rebelling. He had a party night with Jake. The mom is trying to get the dad to go talk to him, but he's like, he doesn't want to talk to me. In that situation, you're the parent. You're the one who should be doing the talking. You should be guiding him through this situation and helping him to pick better things in the future. Most movies would probably end right at this point where we've seen Zach die and the tragedy has happened, but Alpha Dog is not like most movies. The mother grieving about the loss of their son. It's one of the darkest parts in the entire movie because you see the collateral damage. Her son was killed over $12 million that she had, that she would have paid probably 1,000 times just to get her son back. And this would also be a very fitting point in the movie because we've seen the impacts. Again, Alpha Dog, not your standard movie. So instead, we see Johnny True Love on the land. He's gone on a hike and he's hanging out with his girlfriend, and his girlfriend is like, this hiding thing is really doing it for me. Time for the D. There's only one problem, and that's either due to the stresses of the situation or whatever's going on, Johnny True Love can't perform. And I think it's a fitting end, because when we look at True Love's character throughout the movie, one thing that's consistent is he's consistently failed to achieve the standards of the male stereotype. A terrible leader. He's cruel to people for no reason. People don't really like him or trust him. In the end, the only reason that he can get people to act in his favor is because of mutually assured destruction. He's not a good fighter, not even close to a good fighter. In any sense of the word, he's not brave, not strong, not determined. Whenever stuff got real, whenever poop got real, he was kind of just vacate his house, right? When it came time to deal with the consequences of his actions, he continued to not man up. And something I want to touch on here. Throughout the movie, there's this count of every time somebody has witnessed Zach being in a place. So it starts at 1, and then by the end of the movie, since he's been party to party, house to house, we're at like 100 people. There was never a world in which True Love got away with this crime when so many people were privy to it. And that's kind of the true bleakness, is that while there's never been murder, Sex served absolutely no purpose other than making the lives of everybody involved worse. And because true love failed to act like a man, now he no longer has his manhood. On a literal level, this is very much a story of futility. There's so many things that go just enough wrong for catastrophes to unfold. And I think one of the other tragedies of this is that there's so much toxic masculinity floating around the spot, and it really only would have taken a single example of positive masculinity to clear up this entire situation. If True Love's father had manned up and been more of a father to his son, made him feel like he could rely on him for things that he needed instead of feeling like he's entirely alone, True Love would have came to him sooner, and he could have avoided at least half of this mess if Frankie had manned up, like he told Susan he was going to. That's a whole thing I haven't even had time to do. It's a 2-hour movie. But at one point, he goes off on Susan. He's like, tell me I'm the boss. And I'm going to make things happen. If he had carried that energy into saving Zach's life, Zach would still be there. If Zach's father had manned up and talked to his son, again, in the same way that True Love's father had neglected to, he could have avoided him running away. Maybe then Zach would have been like, I should at least check in with my dad, let him know if things are cool. Pseudo masculinity will always inherently be a problem for like real men. And I mean that internally, that's true, right? Like, if True Love didn't feel so much compulsion to be that guy, when, to clarify, again, I don't know how many times I have to say this, he is not that guy. He ain't got that dog. Be better men to men is the point of Alpha God. Be a bro to your bros. Like a true friend.